So, Rob, let's get it popping. And last night, game was on, at least the first half while we were doing the show. And Boston was having its way with the Miami Heat, despite being without Al Horford and Marcus Smart. And then in the third quarter, it just totally changed. And, I mean, you rarely see a shift like that. I mean, Miami's been the best third quarter team in the playoffs. And they came out last night like gangbusters after halftime. Outscored the Celtics something like 30. I'll get the exact number. I think it was like 39-14. Yes, 39-14 in the third quarter, Rob. And they end up winning by 11 to take a 1-0 lead in this series. Any quick thoughts you had about that?
No, I mean, they had to win that game, Chris. We talked about it last night. I mean, if they don't win that game, game one in Miami, Boston missing 2 players, I'm sorry. I would be like, good night, everybody. Try to veal, like you got to win that game. And they were off to a bad start, and they were down big, Chris, early on. Not big, but, down almost double digits.
They were being handled, pretty.
They went 7 minutes before they scored their first basket
Boston,
at home.
Yeah, in the third quarter.
Right?
Oh, you mean overall?
To start. I thought
Miami.
Miami.
They got in a hole. I don't know the exact number, but Boston went 7 minutes without scoring a field goal in the third quarter.
Yeah,
I'm with you, Rob, because as I picked Boston in 6, you picked Miami in 7. As I'm watching that first half, my thought is, will this even get to 6 games? Because to your point, if they go into Miami, they're coming off a tough game 7, right? Miami got to a little bit of rest because they got rid of Philly in 6. And you're at home. They don't have not only Marcus Smart, but they find out right before the game Al Horford's not playing. So it's hard to prepare mentally for that. And then they come out and wipe the floor with you. That would have been tough for Miami to overcome.
No, that would have been devastating.
They came out, and I think they understood that, Rob, coming out of the locker room at halftime. And they put forth a spirited performance, so I give them credit. But look, Rob, do I think that Jimmy Butler is thinking like this? What I'm about to say, no. Do I think the older veterans in the league are thinking like this? No. But I'm going to say this. If I was going to write a column off of this game on the Heat or Jimmy Butler, I might write this.
Okay.
These playoffs, Rob, we are seeing somewhat, not totally, but somewhat of a changing of the guard, right? That old generation, LeBron isn't even in the playoffs. Kevin Durant bounced in the first round. Chris Paul bounced unceremoniously out of the playoffs in the second round. And you got all these young guns. Ja Morant was impressive. Luka's still alive. Jason Tatum is all the rage. He's 24 years old. And his partner, Jaylen Brown. You got a lot of young guys, kind of that next generation that's going to carry the league for the next 12 years, emerging. And obviously Golden State's still alive in the West. But in the East, Jimmy Butler, of all people, is kind of carrying the torch for that generation. He smacked around the ballyhooed Trae Young in round 1. And Trae was coming off, taking over the Garden in New York City last year, and the new Reggie Miller. And Jimmy and the Heat put him in his place. I mean, just stifled him. Then the second round, here Tyrese Maxey is looking like a future star. And, of course, Joel Embiid wants the MVP, might have won the MVP, when that series was starting, people thought. And Jimmy Butler takes them out. And now, I got the Celtics, so I'm not saying this is going to continue. But just based off last night, you could say he did it again. Jason Tatum, the new it guy, put him in his place along with his partner in crime, Jaylen Brown. So that would be my great column I would write for the New York Times, right?
I don't think I would buy the Times that day. I think I would skip that column.
Well, the Times was a little above your
I knew it.
your reading level anyway.
What?
We reached people like Ed Bradley from 60 Minutes. That's the type of people who used to read my game stories.
Oh, yeah, right. And the people who read mine in the Daily News had an 8th grade reading level, right? We used to write for
they would tell us, Rob.
Right.
I thought it was even lower than that, they said.
No, 8th grade.
Was it 8th? Because
Yeah.
I thought somebody said 5th or 6th.
No, it was like 8th
I'll
grade
go with
reading
8th.
level.
That's fine.
Yeah, all right. Just because you got college
the times,
educated.
though, we didn't dumb it down, though. We did not dumb it down.
Top 1% is the people you were writing to. You know what I mean? Yes, I didn't belong in that crowd. I hear your point. I don't know. I just don't feel that way in that his path has been a little easier. And I'm not knocking him. You got to play who's in front of you, Chris. Atlanta, they had an uneven regular season. They made it in. I didn't expect it too much from them. Philadelphia with a half-hearted Harden, you know what I mean, who gave you something every other day, maybe, or every 2 or 3 days. Again, Miami went through stretches, even with Butler on that team, where they couldn't score, Chris, during this postseason. Where you went, what?
But that's what I think will be their downfall in the series.
Like they don't. Am I right? They don't score. They go through stretches of not scoring, and we've seen that. So I'm just like, I give him credit. Took the lead, game 1, important game at home, but I don't know if he's really moving the needle in the Eastern Conference, and I don't know where he really fits in if those other guys or other players or at full strength where he really fits in. I'm not knocking Jimmy Butler. He's made himself into a tremendous player, Chris. He really has.
A legitimate star.
Yeah, I mean, he's made himself into that. He was not a star.
No.
Or anything.
He averaged 2 points his rookie year, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, that says a lot to see where he is now.
Yeah.
With a trip to go to the finals again for the second time in 3 years, 4 years? What is 3? Since they lost to
the bubble,
last
3 years, and then 2 times in 3 years. Yeah,
2 times in 3 years. That ain't too bad.
And played really well in those finals. He was great in the bubble. That was the emergence kind of. I mean, he was a very good player before that, but he really took it to another level in the bubble. I'm gonna give him credit for this, Rob. Kevin Durant. This is the defense. Now, granted, Marcus Smart wasn't there, and neither was Al Horford. That's big because they did hunt Peyton Pritchard. You know. And they went at him. They put him in pick and roll so they could get a favorable matchup on him. And Butler and others torched him. But still, this was the defense that made Kevin Durant look pedestrian. This was the defense that, heck, for the last 3 games, made Kyrie Irving look pedestrian. And gave Giannis all he wanted. Guarded Giannis. Giannis played great, but they guarded him about as well as you could. Held him to 45% shooting. That rarely happens to him. And Jimmy Butler had his way with him, Rob. 41 points, 12 of 19 shooting. 41 points on 19 shots. And, Rob, check this out. In today's NBA, he scores 41 points without making a three-pointer.
Yeah, unheard of. Just totally unheard of.
Yep. Very impressive. Very impressive. Got to the line 18 times, hit 17 of them.
That home
so Jimmy Butler
was
yeah, it was. Come on,
Chris.
And,
we know the NBA. That little home cooking. You'll get a belly eating that home cooking and all those free throws.
But you know what else? You got to admit this. Boston, as good, and I'm not taking anything away from Miami, but as strong as their defense was, as intense as it was in that third quarter, Boston, if you look at the 6 turnovers, Rob, from Jason Tatum in the third quarter, not 6 for the game, 6 in the third quarter. It almost all of those were unforced. Like he just dribbled into a double team that was obvious. Threw the ball when you could clearly see Jimmy Butler in the passing lanes, and Butler makes 2 steals. Threw a pass at the rim where Robert Williams was covered by 2 guys. Almost no way he was going to get it. Like, what it showed you, Rob, is, we're in an era when a lot of 6'8" to 7-footers can handle, right? And Jason Tatum's handle is sweet for a swingman. But just because you can handle doesn't make you a point guard. Doesn't mean you should be bringing the rock up. Didn't Durant learn that against Boston? Yeah. And Jason Tatum kind of learned it last night. he made some poor decisions as the lead ball handler without Marcus Smart there. So a lot of lessons to be learned. Look, I think Tatum will learn from it. I think this Boston team has proven its mettle, as has Miami. But I just think Boston has the more talented team, especially once they get healthy. And right now, Rob, Al Horford doubtful for game 2.
Wow.
Because, the COVID protocol.
That's what I'm saying. He might miss more than that, Chris. He might miss 4 or 5 days. Right.
He could miss 3 games, which would be terrible. But, Robert Williams played well. The bigger loss in this series to me, is Smart, because that perimeter defense was hurting last night without him.